Hi, everybody. I'm Donna Andersen, author of Lovefraud.com, and today I'm with my friend and colleague, Dr. Liane Leedom. Dr. Leedom is a professor of counseling and psychology at the University of Bridgeport, and she is going to be presenting a really fabulous and helpful program for everyone who's been targeted by a disordered person. And it's called Skills Training for Recovery from Abuse, Gaslighting, and Toxic Stress. So, welcome, Dr. Leedom. I'm so glad to be speaking
Hey,
with you.
thanks. Thanks.
Great, great, great.
Love it.
So, this first part we're going to talk about today is the introductory session for the entire program, which has about 25 different sessions, so which is like amazing. But anyway, this first program is called Your First Step to Real Recovery from Narcissistic Abuse and Trauma. So, you've told me that one of the things that people who have been involved with a sociopath, psychopath, or narcissist needs to overcome is severe gaslighting. So, what is gaslighting and how does it affect survivors?
So, gaslighting is when another person tries to control your view of reality. And I've heard so many stories of gaslighting, Donna, over the years, I'm sure, as have you. And one of the first questions people have about it is, do they really do this on purpose? And so I'm going to say yes and no, that gaslighting is so effective in um, controlling people that some of these types do it instinctually. And one of my ideas about these people is that their actual level of consciousness is not the same as ours. And so, especially when it comes to awareness of what's really going on in their own person. And so I think, some of what they do is even out of their awareness. They're just sort of operating like evil robots, you know, perpetrating
Mhm.
on others. But the idea is that over time, the I'm going to say survivor, could say victim, but we have to think of ourselves as survivors. Their survivor's worldview, how they see reality, comes to align with that of the disordered person. And so first part of recovery is recovering a sane, healthy worldview, taking your reality back. And
Okay.
that's a big task.
Okay. So, and how do survivors how does this impact the survivor? This
Well,
whole experience.
first, let me just say this about how we view reality. And sometimes when I say this to people, they might feel insulted because they might feel like, oh, she's telling me I can't see reality. So let me normalize this. Anyone can be gaslit and have their view of reality tweaked. And one of the reasons for that is our brain makes shortcuts so that we can survive in the world. And one of the shortcuts our brain makes is that we um, see what we expect to see. And what we see, and I see, when I say see, I mean perceive. Because it's not just visual, it's what you hear, um, and how you put your world together. That's what I mean when I say see. And so over time, then we expect to see things in the way that the disordered person sees them, and that's how our reality gets captured. So, if for those people that are listening, if your reality was captured by a disordered person, please be aware and welcome your feelings of shame because we have all had them, but realize that it's a bit misplaced because you're no different than anyone else. Everyone can be subjected to gaslighting. Did I answer your question? But yeah,
Yes. So, what we're going to do in this entire program is teach mindfulness skills, or what you're going to
right.
do. I'm just kind of asking questions. So, how do these mindfulness skills help survivors to overcome the gaslighting and to begin recovery?
Well, there are two aspects, or maybe even three aspects to overcoming gaslighting. First of all, we have to overcome what predispose us to have a worldview or a view of reality that's not quite right. And so the first thing to realize is that any strong emotion is going to skew a person's view of reality. So to have a true, quote unquote, as close to true as we can ever get view of reality, strong emotions have to be brought under control. And that means any strong emotion. But for survivors, it's fear. Um, that's the big one. Fear, sadness, loss, grief, shame, all of those negative emotions. So the first thing is that mindfulness practices over time help reduce the intensity of these negative emotions that can skew how we see reality. In fact, um, and I'm going to be making references to ancient wisdom, which is what I call it. The ancient practitioners said that, our consciousness and how we see reality is like a pond, in that it could get stirred up and have mud in it, and then the visibility is bad, but if you let it sit, then the contamination sinks to the bottom, the dirt sinks to the bottom, and then what's left is the clear water on top. And that's what our emotions do. They create muddy water of our consciousness and stop us from viewing reality fully. So first, that first thing is strong emotions. The second part is uh, the ability to detach from our thoughts enough to question the reality that the psychopathic individual has served up. And often, especially in the presence of strong emotions, people think that if they have a thought, it must be true. And maybe most of the people listening to this today have gotten beyond this thought that I'm about to tell you. But even people who tell me they've gotten beyond the thought, when I really talk to them, sometimes they're not fully beyond it. And the main thought is that this psychopathic individual is a genius. They have extraordinary abilities. They can do anything. They're so talented. All of that grandiose garble that the person is fed, and all of those thoughts feed the fear, because okay, now here's this person that's way more talented than me. Like one survivor once told me that yeah, this person told her that he could bend spoons with his mind. So, and she really fully believed it long after she realized that what he was. And it was a belief that was really hard for her to let go of. So, if you believe that here you are trying to leave and get away from this person that can bend spoons with their mind, then how scary can it be to try to get away? And you might not be successful because this person is just all seeing and all knowing. So sometimes deep within the survivor are those convictions. And so we have to detach and adopt a dispassionate view of things. Like, for instance, I don't know, for many of the survivors that have studied cognitive behavioral therapy, I was fortunate enough to study that at the Beck Institute. And Judith Beck used to say, just because you think something doesn't make it true.
Mhm.
And that's the attitude that mindfulness helps the person get, that a thought is just a thought. It may or may not be true. And sometimes, even if it's true, it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
So we have to get beyond all those thoughts and just see them for what they are, thoughts. Um, And then the third thing is mindfulness helps us practice observing everything, observing what's available to our eyes, what's available to our ears, what's available to our noses, our bodily feelings, and most importantly, our own inner intuitions. Again, not that we're 100% always going to believe them, but we want them to be available. That I want to be aware of that intuition that's telling me this is no good for me, and not ignore it. So that's, in a nutshell, the benefits of mindfulness is increased awareness of all of these spheres, and a reduction of emotion, and being skeptical and not just believing everything that comes into your mind and everything that a psychopathic individual tells you.
So, as you were speaking and talking about the strong emotions, um, does that also apply to feelings of love? If someone feels like they're in love with this person, how will that skew their view of reality?
Yeah, of course. One of my favorite songs, um, as a child, I used to go down the neighborhood singing this song because I loved the movie so much. I'm probably dating myself, but the Hallmark Channel used to have Cinderella, I think it was, it was probably Cinderella, and they used to sing, "Do I love you because you're beautiful, or are you beautiful because I love you?" And so that just goes to show that that strong emotion, love, causes us all to idealize a person and makes us more vulnerable to those ideas, those grandiose ideas that the disordered person has about themselves that have been implanted in our minds over time.
Okay. So, in this particular introductory program, we're also going to be teaching a few distress tolerance skills. So, what does that mean?
Well, that goes back to what I was saying, that one of the techniques disordered people use is to induce distress in others. And it's really the case. Well, we say they can dish it out, but they can't take it. Um, that's not wholly true. Disordered people can really dish it out. And one of the reasons is that they're immune to it themselves. So, um, this is a bit of a tangent, but they do things like exist on just a few hours of sleep and then expect all those around them to do the same. So the person's exhausted. And then they can induce a lot of fear, anger, arguments, and things. And, the anger part, the arousal doesn't affect them as much. And so, in order to have that clear mindedness, people have to cope with all of these feelings of anger, sadness, guilt, shame. I can just go through the list, and they're very intense. And a lot of people's first reaction is to kind of push them away, and also in ancient tradition, we have a metaphor, and that is the double arrow. And the double arrow is this: that the first arrow that the disordered person shoots at you gives you these negative emotions. But then the second arrow is when you shoot yourself. And the shooting of yourself is, hey, I don't want and I can't tolerate these negative emotions. I don't want to have them, or out and out denial. Oh, I'm fine. I don't have them. So that it's not the first arrow of the negative emotion that cripples people. It's the second arrow shot by their own bow. So distress tolerance is about, and I do this posture often for myself, it's about welcoming those negative feelings when they're there, when they arise, and tolerating them But sometimes the pain is too much to tolerate. So we need distress tolerance skills to help us lower the level enough so that we can tolerate them. And then as we learn to tolerate them, we may still have them, but we don't have the second arrow, which is worse, which is, I hate feeling this way. That is suffering.
Mm.
If I just have a negative emotion, I have pain. But if I shoot myself and I hate the pain, I have suffering. So distress tolerance skills prevent suffering in life.
And so that's the objective of the whole program, is to help people overcome the pain and the suffering and heal from the entire experience. Is that correct?
Yes. And well, I go beyond that.
Hmm.
And that is that if people don't heal, these individuals are numerous in our society. And I would say re-victimization is the norm rather than the exception. So I want everyone to heal so that they won't ever have to experience this again.
Great. Well, I think I'm so looking forward to this program. I think it's going to be
Me too.
terrific. Yes, great. So thank you, Dr. Leedom. And I look forward to everybody joining our program. And again, it's going to be called Skills Training for Recovery from Abuse, Gaslighting, and Toxic Stress. And you can find more information about it on education.lovefraud.com. Thank you very much.